All right. Um, Welcome, guys. um, yeah, I haven't. Uh, yeah, it's been a hot minute since I did a live. I think. Um, Anyways, I wanted to talk to you guys about this book I've been reading, "Anger" by Thich Nhat. Um, I'm not even finished with the book yet. I probably have about roughly, 50 pages left, give or take. But this book, I cannot, I cannot recommend enough. I would say, um, yeah, I love this book. So if you're someone like me that has been wondering how to relate to anger, and what does that mean, and what that can look like from a kind of Buddhist perspective, and like to kind of give some background, like Thich Nhat Hanh is a Vietnamese Zen monk. He's written a lot of books. I've actually read some of them like years ago when I was really into like Buddhism. Um, but I've been on this kind of like self development. I hate saying that word. I've been on like this kind of self development train until I come up with a better metaphor. Um, I've been on this self development train, uh, meditating more and praying more. Um, so yeah, so Anger by Thich Nhat Hanh. I really enjoy this book because one, he kind of gives you a lot of practical examples to apply. And he kind of like hold your hand a lot with uh, how to approach your anger. And what I like about the way that Thich Nhat Hanh kind of frames anger is, anger isn't something that we should be ashamed about. Like it shouldn't be something that, um, I think my general relationship to anger is that I shouldn't be angry, but I find myself angry at, something stupid or something silly. That's a kind of prideful relationship with anger, which I thought was really interesting. That kind of Thich Nhat Hanh kind of phrased it this way: is that if you think you shouldn't be angry, you're having a prideful relationship to anger because you think you can actually like control when you get angry or not. Um, so it's actually not about, and this is the really interesting distinction to make, is that it's not about controlling about when you should or shouldn't be angry. It's about mitigating your anger when you admit to yourself that you are angry. And so that's a different kind of relationship with control. And of course, for some people, I think it really depends. Like reading this book, if the Buddhist perspective could really turn people off on this. Um, but I have another book, for example, I have Healing Anger by the Dalai Lama, and I think the book is good too. However, the reason why I would hesitate to recommend the Healing Anger book by the Dalai Lama is that it's a little bit too intellectual for my taste. I mean, it's again like super interesting stuff, and they make really good points about anger. If you kind of like focus on the reality of suffering and you focus on the consequences of anger, all that stuff is helpful, but it may not be helpful when you find yourself angry. So it kind of seems like they're helping you do kind of like preparatory work. So when you do get angry, but I like Thich Nhat Hanh's kind of work because he's kind of guiding you through like, okay, what happens when you do get angry? Like, how are you going to talk to how are you going to talk to the people when you do get angry? And one of the things that I really like about Thich Nhat Hanh when he talks about anger is that if you have, a partner or a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, wife, husband, um, you can just admit to them that you're angry, um, because being angry means that you're suffering. And this is really definitely coming from a Buddhist perspective, but I think it's helpful. It's definitely helpful, according to Thich Nhat Hanh, to like tell your partner that you're angry and that you're suffering and that you need help. You know, um, and so some of the really good points that Thich Nhat Hanh makes once you admit to suffering with your partner, and being angry is that one, um, you're sharing. So like the main important part is sharing and having the humility to tell your partner that you are angry. So that's the like kind of like the first step. And then the second is to kind of have another sense of humility with yourself about whether you're able to have a conversation with your partner or whoever you're mad with, mad at, whoever you're upset with, um, to be able to have the kind of awareness of I'm upset and nothing right now will come out that is helpful or beneficial. So what Thich Nhat Hanh kind of recommends is that you literally take a break from the conversation. You try to recenter yourself. Um, because this is a Buddhist book, he's saying go into mindfulness. So basically meditate. Meditate for 20 minutes. Take care of your anger. That's what he means by like taking care of your anger is kind of meditating, dwelling in it. And Thich Nhat Hanh kind of says, however long you need to meditate and take care of your anger. It could be 20 minutes, it could be an hour, could be longer. He definitely says that you shouldn't wait more than 24 hours to express how it is, which I think it seems to be a very good timeline, right? 24 hours. I think, if we're doing mindfulness, right, I think 24 hours is probably enough time. If we're not really being productive with our taking a break from the conversation, then that could be that's where it gets dangerous. Like I think this book only works if you actually do the meditations, if you're actually doing the meditation, doing the mindfulness. Of course, for me, I've been doing like the heart prayer from Thomas Keating, and then also like the Jesus prayer. So that basically that's like meditation. That's like meditation, in the Christian sense. So I try to meditate like twice a day, meditate / prayer twice a day. So that's trying to, I'm making a habit now, and it's been helpful. So I think a lot of the advice that Thich Nhat Hanh gives can work as long as you're as long as you're like doing the work. It probably won't be as helpful if you're not meditating and just taking a break. But I mean, again, it could still help you if you're just like, okay, I'm gonna go take a walk and like pull myself together, calm myself down, and then approach the conversation. Like that could be another way of meditating. Like get yourself like out of a headspace that isn't really productive to have a conversation. So yeah, so basically for Thich Nhat Hanh, dealing with your anger is that you really try to not react when you're angry. You really try to mitigate a lot of you try to prevent yourself from speaking when you're angry, or speaking out of anger, or talking out of anger, or doing anything out of anger. It Because if you do that, then you're not really taking care of your anger, and you're just sort of causing suffering on the other person and then on yourself. So anger seems to be a very dangerous thing if you're not taking care of it. And of course, taking care of it is, abiding in it, dwelling in it, versus um, responding in it, responding from it. And so that's kind of like the main focus. And so Thich Nhat Hanh also really makes a good intellectual connection between you know, when I'm in a position of anger, like not only am I suffering, but I'm also causing the other person to suffer. So the question is, how do you transform a moment of anger into a moment of compassion? And for Thich Nhat Hanh, the only way to transform a moment of anger into a moment of compassion is to be able to, have a kind of moment where you're not responding from anger. You've done the mindfulness kind of meditation. You've gathered yourself, you've recentered yourself to have a conversation, to have a more compassionate position, to be able to listen. And on top of that, like, a lot of anger is due to misperception and misunderstanding. Very, very, I can personally say from all the times that I've been angry that a good 90% of them have been really because it's a misperception, right? It's very rarely that your anger is 100% accurate, right? That it's true. So most of the time, our anger is a kind of misunderstanding, a kind of misperception about something, and has to do with a kind of wound. And so we're suffering, we're causing the other person to suffer through our anger, and the other person, when they suffer, they tend to make us suffer, and it just kind of goes into a really bad cascade. So that being said, I genuinely really love the book. I I highly recommend it. It's pretty short. The pages are kind of small, in my opinion. Like, it's a really kind of like tiny book. Yeah, it's about 200 pages, and honestly, I think this was like my, what is it, like maybe third day having this book, and I'm already almost done. So yeah, it's really good. I super recommend it. So yeah, let me know. Let me guys know what do you guys think about that book if you ever get a chance to read it. And then the last point that I think is super great is that it's also making me realize, like, pausing, like not continuing a conversation because you're angry, um, is something that seems kind of counterintuitive to us. One, because I think we have a couple of responses when we're angry. We either are like, all right, I'm angry, I'm gonna just destroy my partner because I'm angry. And then the other response is, okay, well, I'm angry, I'm gonna avoid my partner, I'm not gonna talk to them, I'm not gonna say whatever. But you're not like taking care of your anger. So like, this is the subtle difference with Thich Nhat Hanh, is that, yes, if you're angry, you shouldn't say anything in your anger. You shouldn't react when you're angry. You should actually kind of go away from the conversation. You should tell your partner that you're feeling upset, and you should that you want to reconvene later when you have recentered yourself. And this is via mindfulness meditation and stuff. But you can kind of substitute this for like taking a walk, or like calming yourself down, and however you want to calm yourself down, so long as like you don't feel as angry anymore, and that you're able to have a conversation and not say mean and cruel things to your partner or whoever you are talking to. The whole point is to take care of your anger and transform it into compassion. And so this is what Thich Nhat Hanh actually believes, that when we take that momentary pause, 20 minutes, an hour, however long, to kind of take care of our anger and recenter ourselves, to be able to listen to our, person that we're talking to in the conversation, and have compassionate listening and being there and not reacting, we can have more of a vulnerable conversation without destroying each other. Because what I've noticed with a lot of like conversations that are hard to have between, let's say, like, in personal relationships, whether it be your friends or your like girlfriend, husband, so on, is that once somebody says something out of anger, it's really a gamble as to whether you offend your significant other or not. And I feel like once you offend your significant other, like it just starts cascading into like, now we're just saying hurtful things to each other. Now the whole conversation is just saying horrible and vicious things to each other. And so it's, kind of good to cut that off before it gets there. And so that's what kind of like that spacing out is supposed to do. And I think it seems really helpful. So, the other good thing that Thich Nhat Hanh points out is like venting can be, it seems like it's helpful, but it doesn't seem like it. Like it seems like when we start venting, we sort of just exhaust ourselves. Like we vent, but we don't actually take care of our emotions. Venting seems to kind of only exhaust our ability to deal with our emotions, so we just feel like it actually gets rid of them. That's actually the one really interesting point that I thought Thich Nhat Hanh makes about like venting being like a kind of poor mechanism to deal with our emotions, because venting can kind of fool us into thinking that we actually have dealt with them, when really we're just exhausting our ability to communicate our emotions. So like screaming into a pillow, or like just angry rambling with a friend, like you're just exhausting the emotion and making it seem like you've dealt with it, but you're not actually taking care of it, because when you talk to the person again, you can just get angry again, and it just reconvenes once more. So putting yourself in a practice of like some type of mindfulness in any way seems to help, in my opinion. And recently I had a pretty good conversation with my own significant other about this, which I thought went pretty well. Thanks to the book, actually. So I have a real testimony for this book to show that I do think it works. But I do think that it may feel very counterintuitive for a lot of people to take a break in the communication, to attempt to reconvene later at a later time when both parties are able to be more compassionate, open-minded to listening, and not react to each other. And you could say like, some people might say like, well, this is a lot of work, but then, if this is a lot of work, then like obviously this is also why a lot of us don't want to go to like couples therapy, because or like maybe this is why couples therapy would be easier, because the therapist is going to be the level-headed one. You can just be the one that's a little bit more messy. Um, so, um, yeah. But anyways, that's enough from me. I genuinely like the book. Highly recommend it. Um, may not recommend it so much if you get too caught up in like the Buddhist stuff, but I do think it's helpful. I think it's worth trying out. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying some meditation out and so on. But yeah.